Hey everyone, so I kind of wanted to talk about how video games have changed like over time, even in the past 10 years or so because I'm 19, so I grew up like in I guess the late 2000s, early 2010s, and like that might not really seem that long ago to some people, but I mean it really is when you think about it. I actually grew up on like a lot of older consoles. Like I had N64 and SNES and stuff, but mainly it was like GameCube and Wii for the most part. And one thing that really changed is physical games. Like I know like a lot of times now everyone gets digital games. Of course, there's some people like me that like getting the physical games, but even then, it's still kind of hard to get the physical games because sometimes it's just more expensive and it's just cheaper on the eShop or on the PlayStation Store or whatever. So you just want to buy it on there, but then you get to play the game obviously, but you don't get a physical copy of it. And even nowadays, whenever you buy a physical copy of the game, it doesn't even come with a manual in it. Like that's honestly one of my favorite parts of any game. Like I remember we would go to the store, right? I would get a game for my birthday or something, and then in the car I would look at the manual like all the way home. I would just look at the manual, look at the art and all that stuff, and it's just a really fun experience. But now it's just not there anymore because I don't know. I guess they just don't want to print copies of the manual or something. I guess it might cost some money. I mean, it can't cost too much money though. So yeah, that's one thing that changed about video games that I really don't like is the lack of manuals. Like even the Nintendo Switch games, there's a place to put a manual there, but it's never there. So that's one thing that really changed. And also, like I said before, a lot of games are actually cheaper on the eShop. So a lot of people will just buy the game on there because it's the same game. So you might as well pay less money to play it over having a physical copy. I feel like a lot of people will start to do that. So physical games might actually be phased out. And that's really sad to admit, but I really think in about 10 to 20 years, physical games might actually just be gone, which really sucks. I love physical games, but I really think that's how it's going, though. So another thing that kind of changed with video games, I've noticed anyway, is the cover art of games. Now, I feel like it's kind of been less creative in the past, like, I guess 10 years or so. Like, just take Ghost of Tsushima. That's one of my favorite games now. And it's a great game, but the cover art, I will admit, is pretty generic. It's just kind of the main character standing there, and that's it. Just kind of the main character, no background really, maybe a few leaves, but that's it. And I get that, like, it kind of doesn't matter because the game obviously sold, like, millions of copies, but I just feel like they could have put a lot more effort into that because if you look at the game, it just has all these bright colors and a ton of leaves and stuff. They could have, like, incorporated that into the cover art and made it look really cool. Kind of like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is an example of like really good cover art. Like it literally tells you everything you need to know about the game just by looking at the cover art, which I think is what cover art should do. But now, like too many times they'll just see cover art with like it'll be like Call of Duty and it'll just be a guy sitting there with a gun, which like yeah, I get that's kind of what the game is, but like if you look at Black Ops, like it's not even the main character that's on the cover of the game. It's just some random guy with a gun. That's usually how it is. And that's kind of just, like, even if you look at the Spider-Man game, it's just Spider-Man with a blank background. I mean, it's not very interesting. I know that's like a small detail, I guess, but I kind of miss the abstract cover art, I guess you could say. I don't know. But also another thing, and this is a big thing, is microtransactions. Now, before the internet, like, if you look at GameCube and PS2, I guess that was kind of the last era, like, before the internet, really. But even a lot of Xbox 360 games, the early ones, I guess, didn't really have the microtransactions. But now, pretty much every game has that, and they'll have DLC. And that's fine, I like DLC when it's released, like, maybe a year after the game comes out. But when a game comes out and it has DLC day one, it's like, really? You could have just put that in the game. I just paid $60 for it. I'm looking at you, EA. EA is probably the biggest company that does that. But, yeah, there's just a ton of microtransactions now, and a lot of times... another thing too is when you buy a game, a lot of times it's just not even complete. It'll have like tons of glitches in it. If you look at Cyberpunk, obviously that's like the biggest example of that, where you buy the game for $60 and it's just not ready yet, and you can't play it. You can't really play it until a few months later when they patch it. And I just miss when the games came out and it was just completely on there. They had to make sure every bug was fixed pretty much, and it was just on the disc. Like if there was a major bug, they could obviously like release, kind of like with Ocarina of Time. What they did was there's a few things they wanted to fix with it, so they put out a 1.1 version, I think it was, and there's a 1.0 version, which is the original version. But it doesn't really matter because it doesn't change the game that much. And I just kind of miss when you would buy a game and the whole game will be on there and it doesn't need to be fixed or anything. It's just the entire experience right there. But yeah, like too many times I'll put in a game and there will be like a big update. Like for example, when I got Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, the Switch version, I put it in and it had like a 5 GB update. I was like, why is there a 5 GB update for SpongeBob? And it also just kind of eats up your storage, especially if you're on Switch. But I don't know. I mean, I guess like having the internet connection is obviously a good thing. Like developers can patch in stuff that they wouldn't have been able to do if they were to release it on a console without the internet connection. So I get that it definitely has its benefits, but I feel like they're kind of using it to be just a little bit lazy with the launch version of a game. Because nowadays, you would not want to play the 1.0 version of a game. It just wouldn't be very good. It would be all buggy and stuff, maybe frame rate issues and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, you basically need an internet connection if you want to play a game now, which makes sense, of course, I guess. But I just miss the days where you would come home with a game, you put it in, and you wouldn't have to download anything. But yeah, a lot of times, even if I buy the physical version of a game, especially for like PS4 and Xbox One, I'll put it in and I have to wait pretty much at least half the day or all day for the game to download before I can play it. And like especially I remember like getting the Xbox One on Christmas. That was so annoying when I put in the disc and like it had to download the entire day, and I think the servers were down, so then we couldn't even play it. So now we're just sitting here with this brand new console that we can't even play, and it kind of just kills the mood on Christmas, really. But yeah, I mean, I guess I sound pretty old when I talk about this. I mean, I'm only 19, so I'm not really old, but I sound like it though, and I'm talking about this stuff like back in my day, you know. But I don't know, it's just video games have changed so much, and like I just kind of wonder how it's going to change in the next 20 years or so. Like, man, I really don't want it to just be all online or all digital, but it probably will be at some point. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think about how much video games have changed, or if there's anything that I missed. Well, there probably is, because this is a pretty short video, so yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching.